The worst year for a lot of us for our mental as well as physical health. So joining us this morning is best-selling author, coach, and fitness expert, Lisa Goldenthal.
Hello and welcome. I'm Lisa G, your host. You're at the top of your game, yet the game is changing faster than ever. Strategies that got you here aren't the ones that'll keep you here. The pressure is relentless, and the fear of obsolescence looms large. That's why I'm here. Welcome to the new podcast series, Disrupted: How to Be Gritty and Unlock Performance. This is your chance where I sit down with today's tops in business, mindset, wellness, and success to help you master disruption and thrive.
Thanks for coming, and I'll see you soon.
Welcome back to the podcast. I'm Lisa G, your host, and today we're diving deep into one of the biggest traps that holds leaders back, following rules that don't actually serve their mission. Our guest is the founder of MKP Strategies, the author of How to IQ, with nearly 30 years of experience guiding startups and Fortune 500s through red tape and regulation chaos. He's built a reputation for helping leaders make smart, principle-driven decisions when the rule book goes blank. So if you've ever felt stuck between doing what's allowed and doing what's right, this episode is your permission slip to lead with purpose and still sleep at night. Matthew Price, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so much, Lisa. Appreciate the opportunity to be here.
I'm thrilled for this conversation. I love the title of your book, How to IQ. And I want to talk about what smart leaders do when the rule book runs out.
Yeah, really what I've learned over the years, 30 years in a very rules-heavy environment. I've led quality, regulatory, generally compliance teams that have a tendency to write down more rules to try to control behavior. And so over time, what I've learned is that just doesn't work. And so
Right.
really the lessons that I've learned over the years, I've also learned that they apply more than just regulatory, but to the business as a whole, and quite frankly, to each of us in our personal lives. And so that's what this is really about. And it's built on a premise of raising our IQ above the rule focus level to a higher level, which are principles and values, and using that to drive decision making, especially when the road forward is not clear.
I love that. And how does that apply to your personal life? I mean, obviously values are important, but how can we do better in that area of our lives?
Because the reality is life and people are simply complex. We're messy. Everything is not clearly laid out and perfectly aligned. And so we have to figure out how to traverse life. Same is true with business, especially with a company that's trying to be something different than they are today, be that size, be that product, a new product line or process. All of those things have to be figured out. And if we expect for someone else to tell us what to do every step of the way, maybe it's better to not get started in the first place.
Yeah, so you want to be a self-leader and you don't want to have to be a rule follower, because I love how you said people are complex and life is complex. So you can't like fit somebody into your little rule book.
Right,
It-
absolutely.
it's always been that way, things like that.
Yeah.
All right.
And
Well,
one
yeah,
Oh, and I was just going to say one thing that is true, it seems to be the tendency of humans is to think that defining for others is the way to control, whether that's to ensure safety or that I as the definer get what I want, whatever the case may be. And in the process, if we allow it to happen, we miss out on understanding, is it really the right and the best way for us? And then when I have to figure things out myself, I need to know how to do the math to get to the right answer.
well, I love how you can apply that to personal life, because in business and in your personal life, nobody wants to be told what to do, and they don't want their opinion to be disregarded.
Right. Absolutely.
All right. So happens when the one-man army sustainable business to scale without burnout. Can you get into that topic a little bit next?
Yeah, for sure. I do a lot of work with companies that are scaling up, that are going from startup to small company, that are small company looking to commercialize their products. And what started out as an incredibly good idea and approach often gets lost in translation the more people you bring onto that team to try to drive forward to success. And
Right.
so, how to IQ, in addition to being a self tool, it also is for those on your team to help them learn how to stay in alignment with the rules or the principles and the values that you founded the company for in the first place. It's kind of like the antidote to the kindergarten telephone game where one tells another, tells another, tells another, and by the time it gets to the last in line, it's something completely different. So this is really about how to help your team members to stay in line with the value, the goals, and the mission of the organization without accidentally or inadvertently changing that along the way and against your will.
Wow. I love that. So staying true to the values and principles of the company, and each person is their one-man army. How does that apply?
Because a lot of these companies start with a person or persons that have incredibly good ideas, excellent and creative approaches, and in order to make that a bigger and more viable offering to the world, you need more people involved. And
Right.
so, how do you help those ones be a part of that growth and
Yeah.
sustainability of the organization? That's a lot what the book is about.
Well, I love that everybody has to buy into the values of the company and feel passionate about it. Let's jump into turning red tape into rocket fuel and finding growth inside guardrails. I mean, because obviously the companies you work with are regulated companies. How can they out-innovate their competitors?
For one is to, I mean, regulation is regulation. Whether we like it or not, we have to live by it. Regulation, for the most part, is founded on good core principles, be that safety, be that honesty or fairness, whatever the case, protection of others, right? And so it's really understanding what the keys and the cores are behind those regulations and using those to fuel your organization to be successful, not because of them, but in some cases in spite of them. And
Right.
and some I've seen over time, I spent a lot of time with companies that are so wrapped up in red tape that it gets away from them in an effort to control things. They add more control and it becomes this spiral that just hogties the organizations and and not in a helpful way.
Well, I'm so curious to hear an example of that, not really with any company that you work with directly, but how everybody gets frustrated. You're dealing with red tape and you just want to get something done. Do you have any examples of something that's happening or happens now where red tape is holding things up that need to move forward?
Yeah, for sure. I worked with a company that was in the process of commercializing their product and trying to dress. This happened to be an FDA regulated product. So there was a lot written from a regulatory standpoint on what they needed to do or not do. And it was helping them find the balance between not just going Wild West, right, and not taking into account these rules, regulations that apply to them, but also not going to such a degree that prevented the organization from growing, from moving forward, from being hung up. This was a point in time in their life cycle that they needed to be making lots of decisions and faster. And so with the tendency to over define everything they needed to do, it just slowed down their product launch, their process, and we know time is money. And so taking that into consideration and then not allowing that tendency to hold them back was a great success in working with them.
So you were able to turn it profitable from all that red tape and all of that holding them back from
That's right.
growing.
And there are some hurdles. I mean, we worked to move as many remove as many hurdles as possible, but the reality hurdles cannot be removed. So how can you make them as short as possible for the organization's health? Um, and for those that can't be made shorter, how do you put a stepping stone in front of them to help jump over them as opposed to running into them? Those are some of the things that we would do, and that, quite frankly, a lot of their competitors were not doing. And so that in and of itself provided a competitive advantage: time, speed to market, but also efficiency and effectiveness of addressing those regulations as they needed to be.
Well, is there a specific mindset shift that has to happen to get us out of analysis paralysis and into that profitable growth that is what we're all about as a company in the first place?
Yes, indeed. In fact, really a lot of it is based on the theme of the book, the title of the book, raising your and your organization's how-to IQ to understand how to navigate and traverse these things as they come up. That's a big thing. But helping the organization do it as a whole and avoiding this tendency that we tend to have as humans to add more specificity in an effort to reduce complexity.
Wow.
It actually is the opposite. The more we define, the more complex it gets. And remembering that the rule or the decision that we make today was based on very specific circumstances at a very specific point in time that might change and likely will change in the days ahead. And that decision today might not be the right decision tomorrow.
Do you have to have a flexible, adaptable mindset?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Because guess what is the constant in life?
Change.
Change. Change,
Change
right?
is the only constant. Right now, especially, I mean, people 25 years ago would have said the same thing. Right now, especially, but it feels that way in the AI driven tech changes.
It sure does. And so think about that in whether you're handling regulatory and compliance matters, or you're just trying to run and grow your business, or you're just trying to get through the complexities of life and figure out what to do
Yeah.
today and tomorrow and the next day. These are sound principles that I've learned over the years. It was a big reason that I wrote this book, is to share with those who are likely struggling with the same things, and maybe this will help them not learn the hard way, which is the way a lot of us have had to over time.
Right. That's how I learned. But I mean, such a pleasure talking to you, Matthew Price, and How to IQ. Do you have any parting words for our audience from your book or your strategies?
Yeah, I mean, I would say if you're a leader, if you're a manager, if you're a professional of any sort, or if you're just someone that's struggling with complexity, change, and competing priorities, give it a look. If you're someone who's looking for ways to cut corners, to sidestep regulations, or just to create an endless supply of rules and rule books, don't buy my book.
I agree. Once that. Well, it's just been a pleasure. Where can people find How to IQ and more Matthew Price?
Yeah, absolutely. Go to look me up on LinkedIn, or you can go to my website, mkpstrategies.com. You can buy my book on Amazon, Kindle, and it's also available on Spotify. So go out and give it a look or a listen, and let me know what you think.
I will for sure. Thank you, Matthew.
All right.